Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, and I have a question for you. I was talking to a friend who is very much into this band called Widespread Panic, and they're a jam band. And he was telling me about how and I don't know how they do this exactly, if there's a particular streaming service or something that you sign up for in order to watch this, but you can watch or stream the audio or watch live a lot of their concerts, like a pay-per-view thing, like a lot of their concerts. They do this with a lot of their shows where you can pay for the pay-per-view. And now with a band like that, they're a jam band, so they change up their set list a lot. So that adds this element of, I want to see this because they may play a song they've never played before. And there's that element of them doing different set lists. And he said they're at the point in their career where they tend to play multiple nights at a particular venue. And a lot of the jam bands do this, they mix up their set lists, they let people record the shows and stuff like that. It's all about the live shows for them. So would this work in a rock or metal context? Would you pay if there was, let's say, Iron Maiden, the opening night of their most recent tour, if you could have watched that, let's say the price was reasonable, let's say it was 10 or 15 bucks, and you could have streamed it on your TV. Maybe you're getting a direct feed from their soundboard and you're getting, nothing that's like 50 cameras, but maybe there's couple cameras spotlighting the guys, one that's a little bit back so you can see the whole stage. Let's say you could watch it live and maybe watch it for it's up for 48 hours or 3 days or something like that. Would you pay for that? And it's a little different with the jam band thing, because you're getting sort of this very unique aspect of they may play something they've never played before. This band, I was talking about Widespread Panic, they do a lot of cover songs like Out of the Blue. So there's that element to that kind of stuff that you would want to sort of hear it. But would it work with metal bands? And I think that it would. I mean, if the price was right, and I know that like on YouTube, you'd say, well, these shows show up on YouTube anyways, but usually there's somebody in the audience. The quality is pretty lousy. If the band was able to do it so that it was semi-professional with a handful of different camera angles, a feed right off of the board so the sound quality is pretty decent, I think for certain bands, I would do that. And I mean, if the first reaction that probably a lot of bands would have is that, oh, well, we're not going to do that because it's going to, people aren't going to come to the live shows then. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, again, let's take whoever your favorite band is. Let's say Iron Maiden, for me, they're a top 5-6 band for me that's still active and still touring. So Iron Maiden, I might have paid for the first night of the tour, because at that point you didn't know what the set list was going to be, and that wouldn't affect me going to see them when they come through my town. It wouldn't make me think, oh, I already watched them on the pay-per-view thing. And I think I think some of the bands have to change their line of thinking. It sort of reminds me of, I've talked about how I'm a hockey fan. The Boston Bruins used to not broadcast their games, or no, the Chicago Blackhawks, I'm sorry, used to not broadcast their games. They didn't give them out to any. You couldn't watch the Chicago Blackhawks home games. The only way you could watch it is if you were watching from the out of town. You lived in wherever the visiting team was, and their logic was, oh well, this it's going to prevent, if we put it on TV, people aren't going to come to the games. And that's ridiculous, right? I mean, this was like when I first started watching hockey in the mid 90s, and they pretty quickly changed that over. I think their owners at the time were older, so they've sort of stuck in their ways, if you will. And of course that's ridiculous, right? I mean, look at sporting events. You can stay home and watch it on TV, and in some ways, as I get older, I sort of say to myself, it's more fun watching it on TV. But there's still that experience. People want that experience. It's the same thing with live concerts. I don't think that it would stop people from going out to hear the bands. And let's face it, people are posting this junk. People are posting it on YouTube in junky quality anyways. Their cell phone with people all in front of them. You can hear the guy next to him, somebody talking right next to the guy who's trying to film with his cell phone. So if you had a half decent quality thing and the price was reasonable and it was sort of easy to, I mean, this just popped in my head. Imagine if there was a company that handled a whole bunch of bands, like live streamed shows. And it's sort of like a Netflix thing where you can go in, you can pick your subgenre, you can pick heavy metal, you can pick rock, you can pick pop, whatever. And there's bands and they've got a whole bunch of shows lined up. Maybe they're only there for a limited time. Maybe they're there permanently or whatever. Maybe other bands, they go back into their archives and pull out shows. I know Metallica was doing that during the pandemic. I forget if it was like every week or once or twice a month or whatever, where they were posting old classic shows. Would people pay for that? Would you pay for that? Again, if it was your favorite band, if it was a band, maybe you live somewhere where the bands don't come to you or where it's difficult for you to get to see the bands. Would you pay for that? Would people pay for that? I think that they would. And it's hard for bands now with people not buying as much physical media, but maybe something like this, people would embrace something like that. Or maybe if you walked out of a show and or at the end of a band's tour, they offer you this package. You can buy X number of shows or something, or they compile the best of their shows. And again, it doesn't have to be some like DVD thing where all kinds of effects and angles. And that's probably the other thing that a lot of bands don't want to give up that control. They don't want, oh, well, we're going to look bad if it's just like 6 or 7 cameras and it's not edited the right way. And if it's just a soundboard feed, oh, we're going to look bad. But I think that the fans would understand, and the fans would embrace that and understand what it is. I did a video on DVDs and I commented on like how many people buy live DVDs anymore. It's not as popular thanks to YouTube. So why not get in on, there's so many people that do it already on YouTube. It's like the old days with bootlegs. You know, people went in, stuck a tape recorder in their pocket, then they'd put out a bootleg, and some people fought against this. Frank Zappa had these box sets, Beat the Boots, where he basically just took those bootlegs and pressed them onto vinyl because it was his. He didn't make the recording, but he had the right to it because it was his music. So this is, if you sort of look at YouTube like this, well, maybe you could beat YouTube and be putting out these live shows as pay-per-view things, and then maybe when the tour's over, they put a couple complete shows up on YouTube or something. So I don't know. It's just an idea that occurred to me as I was having this conversation, and he was talking about how this band is you know, it seems like they're way more open to ways of interacting with the fans. There's even like some kind of subscription thing that he gets, or I don't know if it's a limited thing or if it's a all year round thing, where he can listen to their live shows. It's like Widespread Panic Radio or something like that, and where you can hear the live audio feed of whatever the show that night if they're playing, and then the rest of the time it just plays previous live shows. Again, jam bands with such a huge set list, it's a little more, that makes a little bit more sense for them. But imagine if there was some subscription service that was like live metal bands, and bands that tonight is going to be Metallica is playing tonight. You can listen to Metallica live. And if you're somebody who's out driving around in your car, I'd probably do that. If it's the band that I like, and if they're playing complete shows from metal bands, classic metal bands and stuff like that, that might be something that I would be into. So let me know what you think of this. What do you think of this, like pay-per-view live shows? What about like streaming the audio of live shows? Is that something that you would pay for if the price was right? Is that something that you would think would work within heavy metal? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.